Unfortunately, Zuza is not here today. She got sick with COVID, and we wish her speedy recovery. And we have Jakub, Pavlak. That's the one. I already apologized for that in advance, right? And we have a lineup of lightning talks by Sebastian and Krzysztof. So, with that in mind, I think I am ready to invite our esteemed guest from the world of academia. Please come on stage. Applaud.
Excuse me for the little delay, but I have to set my timer to make sure that I won't talk too long. I was given well, it works. Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to be with you today. It's a privilege for me to talk about my project, my open project. It is open to all volunteers who want to eventually join our project. So I'm especially happy to have in front of me so many experts in IT. Oops. You know, to err is human, but to really screw things up requires a computer. It used to work today already. Yes, it is on. It is on. It is on. So maybe you. Computer is not reacting to the keyboard. Even so it is even worse than that. Okay, I will finish the presentation mode. About now? Now it works. Yeah. Okay. The victory of a human being. So, what are the goals of the project? Just like that, we want to improve the quality of software. And at the same time, as a side effect, to lower the cost of program testing and maintenance. Better quality, you don't need to spend that much money for testing and even less for maintenance. There are essentially three ways of caring about program quality. One is, of course, testing. The second is proving programs correct on the basis of a mathematical theory. And the third is build programs correct, rather than build them anyway and then prove them correct later on. Testing is cost intensive, you know it very well. And besides, testing will never give you a guarantee that there are no more bugs in the program. Testing only allows you to discover the bugs, to remove these bugs, and usually when you remove one bug, you introduce three others in different places, which you have to then locate by yourself. Proving programs correct is a theory developed since probably Alan Turing, who published the first paper on that subject in 48, but the paper has been forgotten then. Later on, Hoare, Dijkstra, and other people were, and also myself, were tackling with the problem of proving, mathematically proving that the program is correct. And this area, as a theoretical research area, is developing quite well, but it never came to practice. And in my opinion, there are two reasons for this fact. One is that proofs are usually longer than theorems. Okay, you agree on that? And a theorem about correctness of program is longer than the program itself. So the proof must be a few more times longer than the program, and this is rather discouraging for proving programs correct, real programs correct. But there is another reason which is even more important. These programs that we want to prove correct are not correct. Programs that are coming out from the coding department, they are going to testing department, they are not correct. So the idea of proving programs correct was based on an expectation. Then we sit to the program, we try to prove it correct, we can't prove it correct, and in this way we find an error in the program, we fix the error, and we try to prove it correct again and again, and this never came to practice because this way of treating program correctness or program reliability was not very effective. And the third way, and this is the one that I'm trying to develop in my project, or we are trying because I have some collaborators already, is to build programs correct. I mean, to develop the approach to program production similar to that of production bridges, airplanes, or dishwashers. We first make a project, a blueprint, certain calculations. Based on this project, we know that if we then make our product along the lines of the project, then the product will be correct, meaning will satisfy the expectations of the user. And this idea was, for the first time, suggested by Andrzej Dijkstra, a Dutch, very famous computer scientist, myself in '78, and recently, maybe for some of you, 2008 is not that recently. Anyway, in the new ages, in Daphne project, and the slogan is correct by construction. They believe that they build programs in such a way that they are correct. Our project, our slogan is proved by construction, and what is the difference I will tell you in a moment. Now, there are two aspects of program quality. Consistency of program specification with the expectations of the user, and consistency of the specification with the program. Consistency of the program with the specification. This is, I believe at this moment, this may be the future area of Lingua project. So far, there is very little research in this field. We concentrate on the consistency of the program with its specification, and not because we believe that this is more important, but because we feel that we are experts in this area. But I'm looking forward for people who would like to cooperate with me in the development of this problem number one. But we are at the moment in number two. Now, what do we need to realize the goal of producing correct programs? Provably correct programs, mathematically correct programs. Well, in the first place, we need a programming language with a mathematical semantics, because otherwise you can't prove anything. So you must have a language with mathematical semantics, and based on that language, you have to define rules of construction that guarantee that constructed programs are correct, whatever it means. We need such rules, and we have to prove that the rules are sound, which means that if they are given correct programs, then they will return a correct program as a result. As far as the problem of programming language is concerned and its mathematical semantics, we have chosen so-called denotational semantics. They are operational, basically, there are three categories of semantics: operational, axiomatic, and denotational. We have chosen the denotational semantics, and the denotational semantics is a function which assigns meaning to programs. And it is denotational in the sense that it is compositional. Here you see this equation which says that the meaning of a compound program, of a program composed of two parts, may be described as a combination of their meanings. This means compositionality, okay? And here, once we have a language with mathematical semantics, we won't prove the correctness of our programs, but we have to prove the soundness of our rules. We have to prove sort of a meta-theorem, which says that if you are given, say, two programs that are correct, and if we put them together according to the rule, then the result will be correct. The problem is that the existing languages do not have denotational semantics, and in my opinion, they can't have a denotational semantics because they were constructed from syntax to denotations, to meanings. Syntax, when a new language is designed, syntax comes to the table first, and only then we start thinking what the syntax, what sort of meanings the syntax should express. In my opinion, this is why the existing programming languages can't have denotational semantics. You can't directly, in a direct way, write the denotational semantics for them. So we decided in the project to build our own language in such a way that it has denotational semantics. And we construct such a language starting from denotations, from the meaning. So we first decide what we are going to talk about, and only later how we are going to talk about, once we know already the world of meanings. So when designing a programming language, and our language Lingua has been designed in this way, we first describe a world of meanings. They are traditionally called denotations, and practically all denotations are functions that are mapping memory states into memory states. They're transforming memory states, okay? So, and this world of meaning is described in our case in a meta language, Metasoft. Metasoft was developed in the Institute of Computer Science of the Polish Academy of Sciences, where I was employed at this time. And here is the majority, the main creation when you think about a new programming language. In this place, in the descriptions of meaning, you decide what sort of data you are going to have, what sort of types, what sort of control mechanism, etc., etc. Then, once the world of meanings is described, we derive syntax in such a way that the denotational semantics will exist. And this can be done half algorithmically, to a large extent algorithmically. There is a little creation in this place as well, but not too much indeed. And once we have the descriptions of both these words, of meanings and of syntax, we can algorithmically generate a definition of semantics, and this semantics is denotational. And this way of designing programming languages I call denotational engineering. And our experimental language Lingua has been designed in this way. Now, what is the state of the art of the project? We have a methodology of designing programming languages, which can be said to be from denotations to syntax. So the other way around compared to today's habits. Then we have a methodology of programming, which we call proved by construction. To express the difference between correct by construction, that is a guarantee given by Project Daphne, and proved by construction in Project Lingua. The situation with Daphne is such that they're using programming language without a mathematical semantics. The language is described in, like other languages, in plain English practically. And they have construction rules that they believe to be sound. They are not proving them. And the majority of them are probably sound. But you know that the devil is in the details. In our case, we have a full mathematical semantics of our language, and we have program construction rules that are proved to be sound. And therefore, I say that our slogan is proved by construction rather than correct by construction. Now, the language is statically typed. It is object-oriented. It has a sketch of API for SQL. Anyway, we know how to introduce the SQL machinery into our model. And it has concurrency. This is even more sketchy than SQL. It's a concurrency practically limited to Petri nets, but the denotational models for concurrency is a real challenge, and there is a lot to be done in this place. And error elaboration in the sense that whenever our program aborts, it always communicates to the user, to the programmer, what happens. So all abortions are followed by the display of an error message, say, on the screen. So there is a full elaboration analysis, error analysis in the program. And there is an experimental interpreter of a subset of this language without objects, written by my students. I gave 2 one-semester courses at Warsaw University 2 and 3 years ago. And the project is documented, fully documented, in a book, A Denotational Engineering of Programming Languages, book in statu nascendi. It's still modified, and it is available on my site. You can have it. Of course, everything that is connected with the project is free of charge. Now, what is to be done in software as far as the project is concerned? 2 ecosystems. First, an ecosystem for language designers. It should include sort of an intelligent editor of the meta-language MetaSoft, say in Visual Studio Code as an extension of Visual Studio Code. This is a rather obvious task. Second, a mechanism that transforms the description of denotations into a description of syntax. The description of denotations is a list of definitions of constructors of denotations, and the description of syntax is a grammar. It's a context-free grammar, or BNF, written in sort of a BNF-like formalism. I call it equational grammars. Then a generator of parsers, which is a rather routine task, a generator of implementations, maybe compilers and interpreters, and last but not least, definitely not least, a generator of an ecosystem for a programmer of such a language. So what the ecosystem for a programmer should include? In the first place, in order to design or to implement such an ecosystem, we have to complete our language, the definition of the language. because at this moment in the book, I describe, well, I give sort of a sketch how to define mathematically the mechanism of data, of types, of procedures, of classes and objects, etc. But in order to build a real ecosystem, this definition must be completed, and this, of course, requires a decision whether we want to have, at the first moment, of course, whether we want to have a universal programming language like Python or a domain-specific programming language. This decision is to be taken. Once we have the completed lingua, we need an intelligent editor, again, maybe in Visual Studio Code. We need a constructor of programs which implements the rules for program construction. And now the rules are such that whenever, in the majority of rules, whenever we want to apply a rule, we have to prove a certain implication. Not to prove the correctness of programs that we are going to put together, but to prove a certain implication. I'm not going to tell you the details now, but the implication is, these implications, they are mathematically not very sophisticated, but they may be long. They may have many variables. I mean, the number of variables in such a formula may be comparable to the number of variables in a program, quite large, okay? So a specialist theorem prover would be nice. There are several theorem provers around. And of course, this is the task is, and it's not a trivial task, to adapt one of them, to choose and adapt one of them. And such a theorem prover should have some axioms of D theory. D theory is a theory of denotations. Some theorems developed from these axioms. And for every program that is being developed, a set of lemmas that describe properties of objects that are manipulated with the program, by the program. Now, an interpreter or compiler. And finally, some experiments have to be done in order to see to what extent our construction rules are complete, and probably they are not. And in the course of developing these experiments, the set of rules may be complete. Now, our goal is, at the moment, to build two ecosystems, one for a language designer and one for a programmer. And here we have a dilemma, chicken or egg dilemma. What was the first, an egg or a chicken? Translating it to our terms, we have the following choice. We may develop lingua manually without an ecosystem, and then given this lingua and its ecosystem, design an ecosystem for language designers in lingua. So this would be a nice exercise to see whether lingua is sufficiently powerful. But we can do, of course, the other way around. We can start with the ecosystem for language designer written in Python or Java or whatever, and then, using it, develop the first lingua. This dilemma hasn't been solved so far, and of course I expect from my cooperators that we shall probably take a decision together. Now, what remains to be done in the theory? Quite a lot, but I have to say that today the theory is rich enough to think about the first applications of the language. But of course, there is a lot of things to do in theory. There are models for script languages. Concurrency is a very large field. Polymorphic types, development of more practical program construction rules, domain-specific languages, which is a very promising area, etc., etc. This is not the end. And my last slide is about business perspectives, because I have a certain business perspective of my project. In the first place, I have to confess that I'm currently developing this project in an informal way and without any budget, by volunteers. But coming to a monetization of the project, I see a future, say, startup as an organization that is offering Lingua and ecosystems free for public. Access free for everybody, source free for a limited group, because, I mean, not everybody should jam in the sources which have a solid mathematical base. But available, the ecosystems available, open access for all. And monetization, possible monetization is like people who are installing Linux. Linux is free, so take it and implement it on your computer. No? I mean, if you are not somebody sitting in this room, you need help of a company that will charge you for that. So installation and maintenance tools, education, and finally, productions of reliable software. And that is the end of my talk, of the intuitive introduction of the talk. This presentation will be available to you. I have sent it to Piotr. You may write to me. You may see the technical details at the book, and the book from you may get it from my site. And the remaining part of the presentation, which I'm not going to show you, includes some examples, some technical examples, very, very simple, very toy examples. But if you want to feel what is the math, the idea, the philosophy behind the project, then you can see it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor. Does anyone have a question? I've seen some people raising hands even during the talk. So yes, please, that gentleman.
Yes.
You'll receive give me a second. So as you receive the microphone.
Yes, so I had a question like on the beginning, because there was a quality of the code, and you showed that is the testing, the proof that the code is correct, and the construction of the code. And
the ways of
constructing the code.
Yes.
So you mathematically prove that the code, like syntax or the code, which ways writing is correct.
Not syntax, that the denotation is correct. Oh. It's if functioning is correct, because syntax, this is the job that the parser is doing. So correctness of syntax is easy. This problem has been solved for years.
So isn't that included in the previous one? Like in the testing, we try to prove that what we put into the function, for example, and the output is what it should be, like what we expect. So we test that the function is doing something correct. Then we mathematically prove that the function is working, so it's calculating in a way which have to be calculated.
What do you mean by we?
Like
we are first testing, I understand, but we are then proving who is proving after testing?
I mean, like developer is like you get the.
I haven't seen such developers who would prove the correctness of their programs.
I mean, like you build the calculator for the bank, and you have the specification.
Yes.
And based on the specification, you implement the function. And thanks to test, we actually know that what we put and what we get is correct. But the value we are proving by analyze the specification. So now what is the construction? If it's not testing the syntax, like what is testing? Like what is proving in the construction object? What was this?
So you ask me what I mean by proving program correctness, yes?
The construction, like the code.
Well, program which is a code, which is a piece of code, okay? And the piece of code has to obey to certain syntactical rules, and this is checked by parser, by syntactical analyzer. But then your program may do things that you do not expect to. It may be correct, syntactically correct, but instead of putting money from one bank account to another bank account, it will shift this money from a bank account of a customer to the bank account of the programmer. I mean, the program is working correct, but it's not working according to the expectations of the user, who is the bank. And I mean, by proving correctness of programs, I mean that, I'm not explaining this on the technical base, but I explain the intuition. I mean to prove that the program really satisfies the expectations of the user. So, for instance, that the balance sheets are always balanced. Once a bank operation is completed.
We have another question over there. Yes, please wait for a microphone. Thanks.
So allow me to say that I really enjoyed the presentation, and now let's get down to it. So I'm a big fan personally of correctness by construction. I think it's the most promising of the techniques. So total agreement here. Now, as no doubt you're aware, all the rage lately has been so-called artificial intelligence or machine learning. But a huge downside of what we use large language models today for, when it comes to program construction, or basically it's being touted as replacing senior programmers with machines, which is not happening realistically this year or the next. But the denotational part, I think, is showing a lot of promise, and I'd like to know your opinion. What do you think of the applicability of machine learning to the construction of programs where they're built up from correct parts to a correct whole, using techniques that we use today for generating programs from scratch, either by genetic programming or by large language models?
Well, as far as AI is concerned, I have so far only one project that is starting within the Lingua project, and which I think is quite well tailored for the expectations that we may have with AI. Namely, AI shall try to train an AI to write a programmer's manual given a formal definition of the language. And I think in this respect, we may expect AI to do the job. But of course, I'm frequently asked the question whether the fact that AIs are now generating programs does not mean that the project is not necessary. AI will do it for us. But we must not forget that AI is trained on some knowledge basis. And if we want AI to write correct programs, we have to train it in some methods, and these are the methods. Now, in this project, AI is not necessary in the sense that the methods, they are algorithmic, and therefore, what I mentioned here, a constructor of programs, the second line. Okay, so this would be, quote unquote, the AI of the system, because the constructor of programs will be written in such a way that given 2 programs or 3 programs and proving a certain relatively simple implication, and this implication may be proved by AI, maybe, but so far I would not rely too much on AI because we know they like to confabulate sometimes. Anyway, this may be sort of an AI that you mean.
Lovely. Do we have any more questions for the professor? It seems like we have
Thank you
exhausted all
very
the
much
questions.
again.
Yes, please give a hand once again. It was lovely. Thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure. And funny thing is that with the question of an ecosystem, not everyone here might be familiar with designing language, but as assumed with the WarsawJS, it's a JavaScript meetup, so we know the same problem comes around with, oh, should we switch to a new framework before it has the ecosystem, or should we create ecosystem for the existing frameworks? Anyway, I just wanted to somehow tie it down, but didn't do a really good job. Anyway, we are now having a short break of 30 minutes, and we'll be back at 8 on the clock. Please come around if you see speakers, ask questions to speakers, and the professor, if you see each other, talk to each other.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation.
hyped for this talk. I love talking about monorepos. Our esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, everyone else, we are preparing to start very soon. A short of 2 minutes, I guess. So please, please, step away from the drinks, step away from the food, and come closer and gather around. We are almost ready.
I think it works.
Oh wow, you people really don't want to listen about the monorepos. I love monorepos, and this guy mentions here, don't do monorepos. I disagree. I respectfully disagree. We'll see what this is about. It's gonna stir some controversy, I guess. Come on, Echo, please. Come up stage. I guess we're ready to start. Jakob, please give him a hand. Applause. Lovely. Thank you. Please, the stage is yours.
Hello. I know it's a break, so maybe the first question to you, just to warm you up. Do you know what big companies are using monorepo? Facebook, Google, Microsoft. Okay, subjective front-end channel on YouTube, and I'm helping with micro frontends and monorepo setup in BEC Financial Technologies. And in my previous life, I was a saxophone player, and I'm also a co-owner of Painted Field near Warsaw in Biskitki. So what I will tell you about today. First of all, just really briefly explanation of the monorepo, but I won't really deep into the topic. And then I will jump into 3 pitfalls: breaking stuff, drawing lines, and shared. So first of all, monorepo. You can think of monorepo as a warehouse. And if you've been ever to IKEA, then you have to pass through the warehouse and then you are taking stuff. So it's basically the same. Any developer can take any code from your whole organization. And multi-repo, at the contrary, is like a self-storage. So every team has its own space. So you cannot really break into somebody else's code. Of course, if you have privileges, then that's fine, but you have to have a key. And there are, at least there were, 2 big players in front-end monorepo setup, Lerna and NX. But NX just took over the Lerna because the project was like in maintenance. But they represented completely different approaches to how they see monorepo. The first one was package-based monorepo. So every project inside the monorepo has its own list of dependencies. So they have some kind of independence. And NX suggested integrated monorepos. So everything in your code is a library, but you can make a dependency, a direct dependency, and you have a shared version of all stuff. And that's actually what Google is also doing. So they have a single version of all their dependencies. But they have the common problem. They are not really addressing code separation. So that's like a warehouse. You can take anything you'd like. And monorepo is not only about micro frontends, because I mentioned that in our case, that was the reason for going into monorepo. But actually, you might have front-end application, back-end application, and that's the worst, because you might have front-end application that has direct dependencies to back-end applications, and that's not really a good idea. So First pitfall. Who broke it? There is a theory about broken windows. And this theory says that neglected small issues over time leads to major incidents, major crimes. So imagine a small broken window, a small broken line of code. And after a while, like if nobody cares, what can go wrong? Like nobody cares. So we are introducing more and more technical debt. And actually in monorepo, there are thousands or even hundreds of thousands or even millions in bigger situations, lines of codes that are just waiting for a forbidden change. And I mentioned already NX. And NX is a cool tool to visualize your dependencies, your graph. And that's actually the graph you will see going to the NX documentation. And like, that's nice. But it's not the real case scenario. The real case scenario is actually a spaceship. Like that is basically our BEC monorepo visualized with NX graph. So I will zoom you a little bit, and it's still not readable completely. And what the graph tells you, it tells you the dependencies of the monorepo. So imagine I have a change that's somewhere here on the very bottom of my monorepo, and I'm changing a comma. And everything inside the monorepo is affected. So we are dealing with every code, like everybody's code of the whole organization. And what can I advise you? Don't trust the others in monorepo. Introduce code owners. And this is a concept, a tool, or plugin, like whatever. It really doesn't matter. That's an idea just to, like, you have some privileges on your managed stations, probably, if you're working in bigger organizations, so you don't have access to everything. And that's exactly the same for monorepo. You have to make sure that you keep this right. So you have some way of telling that, hey, the other team, just don't mess with our code. And probably if you are even considering monorepo or you have it already, I assume that you have a good coverage of automated tests, because if you change a comma, then you are like, every project is flashing. So you have to be sure that you release with, you have to be sure that you are not breaking the production. But because you might even not know that the application exists, because like you don't have to. And you can also think, okay, but I know the monorepo. Like I'm seasoned developer. I will set it up. It will be awesome. That was also my case. And like I have set up the monorepo. That was awesome. Like there was everything you can think of about good monorepo setup. But the reality is that we are leaving projects from time to time. And after a while, broken window theory comes into play. So what monorepo, and I also mentioned some changes and like how you can be affected directly by this one-liner change. Actually, that's our CI/CD time. It's 9 minutes. For the big organization, that's kind of nice. And that's the best case scenario, because with the worst case scenario, that's almost 4 hours to see your comma on production. Yeah, that sucks. Actually, that sucks. So you have to keep in mind that monorepo comes with a great responsibility.
Thank you for honest.
Sure. Draw a line. What does it mean? I already mentioned something about different teams. So drawing a line is setting boundaries between different architectural components. And what is architectural component, you might ask? And I won't go deep into this topic, but we have our classes, we have our modules, and they are forming our component, our architectural components. And then these components are forming our bigger systems. So you can think about the component as a business domain, as an application, micro frontend, it depends. And here is the QR code to the talk that I spoke a little bit more, talked about a little bit more about this topic. So let's say that we have our components as our business domains. And I have two different business domains, products and orders. So you have to draw a really strong line between these two domains, because product in a products domain is not the same product as in orders domain, because they are speaking different languages. And there are tools that helps you to set it up. Like NX has it built in by default. This is called Enforce Module Boundaries, and there is also a third-party plugin that works like basically everywhere. So if it's Software Architects plugin Sheriff, and I would like to show you a quick demo of setting boundaries inside the application. So I have a very, very, very simple application. Angular store with products and orders. And I already shown you, because that's also a hint graph here. I have product scopes, and they can depend on each other. So like a domain can depend on itself, but I would like to prevent shared from depending on each other. Like shared is just shared. It shouldn't have any additional dependencies. So with NX, I'm currently in slint config file, and there is a rule that says exactly that it lets me set up the module boundaries. So I have here a declaration of orders, of products, and then I have a declaration of shared. So it says that shared should not depend on libs with tags shared. And let me just quickly show you my current state of application. So I already mentioned the graph from NX. So this is my graph of the application. I have orders, products, shared, and I can see clearly that shared UI is dependent on shared product. So let me just run the NX affected lint, and I will have a direct information about what goes wrong. So where did I break the rule? And it says me that, okay, in item, shared item, I have some dependency that is forbidden. So shared scope cannot depend on shared scope. Let me jump to the file, and let's see what's going on here. So I have this very, very simple template, very simple UI component that is using some entity. And that's not a dummy component. That's no longer a dummy shared component, because it's depending on the product. So let's fix this, and let's just use some more abstract concept, like just a string. Let's accept a name. And let me just run the graph once again. And with this simple change, I have a better state. So shared is not dependent on any other library from shared.
If only everything would be that simple.
It's not that simple. And actually, I will jump into the shared itself. So what can I advise you to do with shared? Just don't share anything in monorepo. Because in monorepo, shared has this really not really ugly tendency to just like lose the ownership. So after a while, like nobody is responsible for the given line of code. Like I did some changes here, but like I think I did 20%, and the other guy like took the 80%. Like it is really hard to follow who is responsible for the shared. And I already mentioned that there should be a specialized team that is owning the shared. So if you have this in place, if you have a time and space and budget for a team that is owning shared, go for it. And how to even move further with our independence of our business domains? Because I have here something not really well designed, like dependency from orders to some shared product. And that is kind of smelly here. So how to fix this and how to reduce number of dependencies in general, because that's the general idea. And the answer is pretty much simple, like introduce abstraction. So here I can see the order domain that has its own implementation, its own abstraction of orders product. So it's no longer depending on shared product, but in fact, the application is still connecting these two dots. Like they are using similar stuff, but with dependency inversion, with abstraction, you are losing this direct dependency between the code. So quick demo, let's see how it goes. And I have already my project running, actually the graph, because I'm interested more in the graph itself for now. And that's really useful tool for monorepos, NXGraph, if you use it at the first place. So I can see where is the dependency from orders to the, at least not the shared UI, but shared product. And that's the order list component. So let's then jump to the component. And the component is here. Oh, sorry. And what can I do about it? Let's first see what it is about. So I have some orders page, and then I have some for loop with product. That's pretty much simple. And it's depending on some product service. The code is in Angular, but that really doesn't matter. So I have some product service that I'm requesting some products. So to fix this situation, I would introduce my new abstraction class that's called orders product. And then this orders product is just returning me some interface that is declared in the domain of orders. And then let's just replace this here. Of course, I need to inject it here and add import. Okay, and that's not yet finished because sorry. Thank you. That's not yet finished because once I injected my orders product, I have to connect it somehow with the missing dependency because like I just cut it off. So I'm jumping to the index file. That's a public API of a library in an NX. So it's exposing me what I declared inside the domain. And watch out with this file. It should be really, really simple. And like this can help you encapsulate your logic. So be careful about exposing stuff from the domains. And I will jump to my application and connect the dots. So I have a provider, and here I can just tell my application that for orders product API abstraction class, let's use existing product service, so my previous service that I was using. And let's import this here and here. That's fine. So let me I won't show you the application because it's silly, but I think that the most important thing here is NXGraph and how does it look like now. So I have my orders that's no longer depending on shared product. Of course, from the logic perspective, I'm still using the product, the shared product, but I can replace the implementation with whatever I want. And like the benefit of this is that for my NX affected, so my affected scope of any of my changes, like I'm no longer combining, I'm no longer touching orders. I'm of course touching application because that's my main component. So that's the most fragile part of each application, because this is combining everything in my setup. So what can I tell you about monorepo? Should you jump into this topic? Should you do it or not to do it? Because I mentioned pitfalls and don't do monorepos, but the answer is not that simple, because you have to ask yourselves a bunch of questions. And these, of course, are just a simple ChatGPT generated list of questions, but you can think of more of them. So actually, the answer for your question is the ADR. So that's the architecture decision record. So that's kind of a document of making a decision, an important decision inside your setup. So for example, if you are even considering, and of course, I don't mean some small applications, but even if you consider it to be developed during like few years, then it's worth just asking yourself a few questions, whether it's about fast development or maybe independence. And in our case, that was actually the first stage. We were about speed. So monorepo was exactly this. Like, that was a perfect fit. But after a while, after we grew, after we introduced new micro frontends, new independent teams, it occurred that we have to talk for like few hours and manage who will release when and what, etc. And then we are simply going multi-repo, because that's about independence. And that was actually it from my side. If you're interested in, because there's an open position in BC Financial Technologies, we are looking for Angular developer. And if you'd like to improve your CV, there's a QR code to submit in the front-end channel, but it's in Polish, about writing a good technical CV and how technical people are even watching to the CV, like how do we even like consider candidates. And Sebastian will mention also about this open position. And that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Jakub. It was when you said you need a team to manage just the monorepo. I was like, oh, that's me. That's because that's what I did at my previous company. I was the only, it was 6 of us. It was still not enough for 2,000 developers, a team of 6 people only doing monorepo stuff. Still not enough. That's crazy. There's a lot of work. It all goes downhill really quickly. Anyway, who has some questions for Jakub? See that gentleman, the leftist gentleman, the most left. Yes, yeah, that was the first hand I saw. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so first question, you say that we shouldn't share stuff between applications in monorepo, and that's make me angry because how you share the validators, for example, you have Zod. Do you in Angular do you use Zod or something like similar to Zod?
Not that I'm aware of, but like I'm not telling that you should not share anything. I'm telling that you should manage what you share. So once you have anything shared, like there should be a clear ownership of this stuff. And because like this project that I'm working on is like BC is a really old company. Like we have some commits from 60s, and maybe not in front end in Angular, but come on. And the issue is that like people are changing projects, and probably you will just lose the people that were working on the stuff. So you will not have anybody to ask what is going on. So if you don't have a shared and it's managed by someone, of course, you mentioned also validators, etc. And for trivial stuff, that's okay, but that's just coming with a cost. So if you have some trivial stuff, for example, dates, that might be a trivial stuff. But if you consider a company that like we have different stakeholders, then this trivial stuff is getting into the real issue, because like you have to negotiate between different parties. So it's always like a decision. Yeah, that's the trade-off. And it depends. We can also take the discussion afterwards if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely, by all means. So we had the second question was over there. That's what I've seen.
Hey.
Yep.
Thanks for a great talk. As you already touched the numbers, you may not answer, but I'll still ask, just curious, how long it takes you in your old or existing monorepo project? How often do you have the full builds? Like more or less percentage-wise. So you mentioned like from 9 minutes to 4 hours something. So what's your perception of how often those 4 hours build happen, which kind of is an indicator of having a lot of changes in the shared code? Just curious. So
yeah, sure. So the answer is pretty much simple. Every time you touch low-level code, like the validators, you are dealing with the full rebuild, because the more dependencies you have and the less optimizations you have in your DevOps pipeline, the bigger it gets. So of course we have a dedicated, like I'm also part of OpenUI team, like we are dedicated to setting it up and also keeping pipelines in a good shape. So we did this optimization and reduced this time, and we even went a little bit further, because we even introduced some reusages and shared cache. Like my local computer is also propagating cache to pipeline, so we can even speed it up to like 3 minutes. So how often? How often? It also depends of like the mentioned, like touching the code, and I would say it's like once per day, once per 2 days, once per week. It really depends on the scope of changes.
Basically, whenever you update, very common thing like
whenever it's clear, I'm more about the numbers.
So the numbers in the worst case scenario, each of my commit is taking 3 hours. That's the worst case scenario. And like I'm making commits daily. So
Lovely. Yes, and we have time for one last question. Please be brief.
So this is question about your changes, which you managed to get rid of the dependency, and by introducing this change, you made a breaking change because the interface has changed. I have been maintaining a design system as monorepo of company valued $500 million US, and this is not an option in production environment. And my question is, how would you solve in many cases, and I think this is what people might be interested also here, in many cases breaking change is not an option. How would you solve this problem in a non-breaking change way?
add new stuff and replace it with feature toggles. Like
this is a breaking change.
So that depends really on the project, because it's hard for me to imagine what exactly do you have in mind. But we are dealing with breaking changes, and even worse, we have maybe not worse than the amount of dollars in market value. But we are developing micro frontends for native applications that have completely different lifetime of the web. So we cannot introduce breaking changes, and like we have to add new stuff and just deprecate the older ones. So like basically, if you tell yourself, and that's the requirement, that there are no breaking changes, like there is no option. There are no breaking changes. That's period. You are just introducing new interface. You are just introducing new functionality, new UI component, and then just deprecate the later one, like the second one, and just after a while, just remove it. Once you are sure that nobody is using that. So I don't really know your use case, and I'm really eager to know what was your approach, because like I mentioned, so I will then talk with you afterwards. So but that would be my approach, to just add new stuff and then replace and deprecate.
Lovely. We should have a 3-person discussion, because I also want to talk about, and everyone else from the audience, please join if you're interested in breaking changes. Anyway, please give Jakob another hand.
Thank you.
Plus, that was lovely. Right. And now let's see if we have any more computer troubles, as usual, because it never goes smoothly. Oh, but it does. Lovely. And with that in mind, I invite Sebastian here for the next lightning talk. Yes? Okay, 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, let's talk about life. How's the weather? Everyone enjoying the weather in Warsaw in the last 3 days? I certainly did not. And I was freezing. Wow, I don't even know what to do for those 3 minutes. I guess we could thank... What? A joke? Wow, I'm really bad at jokes. Let me think. Oh, yes. All the people who asked questions, and you did ask 2 questions as far as I remember, to both professor and the last speaker as well. So please come to some of the people from the organizing team so we can arrange your rewards. I just go to Sasha or Piotr, or that's, yeah. All right. Well, no, that was not a joke. I'm actually really serious. This is a fantastic opportunity. Yes. Yeah, lovely. Oh, we can see a serious person coming on stage. You are ready. You're armed and ready. Laptop in the hand.
Let's see.
Okay.
I hope I'm ready. Can you hear me, guys? Super.
Oh, yeah, we need to replug the laptop again.
Boom. Let's see what happens.
It never goes smoothly.
Which one? This one.
Yes, top hole. Got to go for the top one. And yes.
All right, we have it. Awesome.
Off we go. Please, another short round of applause before we start.
All right. Let me just jump into the presentation mode and see if it works. Oh, it works perfectly. All right. Do we have some switcher for the presentation? Maybe Kuba took it back from the stage. I wouldn't be surprised. No worries, no worries, no worries. I think Kuba could take it out from the stage when he was leaving. No worries. He brought it back home. We'll see each other tomorrow, so no worries. You don't have switcher. All right. Who has the clicker? No, I don't have it. Yep, we'll see. All right. The moment of truth. Yes. Okay. All right, guys. Today, I would love to give you a very short lightning talk about some of the interesting topics that may pop within the recent weeks, months, or for some maybe also in the years. So I have been looking at the internet over a couple of months ago, and I figured out that, oh, Angular is introducing incremental hydration. Interesting. They influence themselves by SolidJS hydration concept. Interesting. Then I saw something around quick resumability as a next generation hydration. And I was like, okay, once again, this weird word, what does it mean? Then it was like improving React.js with full hydration with Next.js. I was like, okay, I saw a couple of conferences and presentations on Next.js. What the hell is this hydration? Then introducing lazy hydration and server components in Nuxt, or demystifying Vue.js hydration. I was like, okay, it seems like many of the frameworks are talking about the hydration. So what's about it? And then apparently, if you look at the biggest conferences in Poland, but also in Europe and in the United States around front-end, it has quickly become a top trend together with SSR on conferences. And now I would ask question, how many of you work on daily basis with SSR and hydration? Can you raise your hands? All right, you see? That's not a lot, right? It shows that, you know, this trend, it's not necessarily represented directly, immediately on the solutions, but I think it's worth to know what the fuck is this hydration. So my name is Sebastian Goss, and I'm development manager. You can translate it to engineering manager at BEC Poland. I'm also a coding that of two at Tata Koji, and I'm happy to talk with you about those topics which are presented over here in the break. So what the hydration is. Okay, I could finish, right? That's it, more or less. So the hydration is a process of activating the static HTML with JavaScript so it becomes interactive. All right. So for the ones who are working with client-side scripting, a client-side rendering, you know how it works, right? We need to load many things until our page becomes interactive. But that means that our customers, solution users, they are not seeing many things at the very beginning. They mainly see a loader if they have luck, but in majority of times they see a white blank page. And then when it comes to server rendering, we are able to show that something is happening, that the given elements of the page are loading, as we are able to render HTML, load JS, and then hydrate it, which means that we are making our page alive. So that would be it, right? You can scan the code that redirects you to my article, which I published today. No, I mean, today I'll take you through a cool story. Yeah? Yeah? Sure. So let me tell you a story about the Witcher of optimization today, all right? So you arrive to a Novigard under a blood-red sunset, and you decide to pick one quest, right? You're looking for some cash, you're looking for some food, then you pick some of the quest. And one of those quests is Curse of Hydration. Ooh. So you quickly figure out that the whole city is something under a black magic. People stop moving. They can't move. They can't blink with their eyes. The horses are not riding. They're also, frozen. They are dehydrated. Exactly. So you come up with some ideas what could happen, and you do some investigation in the docks, in the other parts of the city, and you figure out some signs of the lag monster. The big shadow arrived, and it turned all city into dehydrated city, which can't move and cannot act. So as a Witcher of optimization, you know what to do, right? You use a special sign which you learned in the Witcher school, which is full hydration. So you take the super sign and you start doing magic. But it turns out that with the full hydration sign, the whole city froze. The whole city froze, and then you are probably even in the worse situation than you were earlier. Because full hydration used recklessly can take you into the very poor user experience. So you can see those people are not just, they're not moving, they're even frozen, and they will die in a moment. So you call a wizard of optimization, not just a witcher, but also a wizard. And you ask him for a help. What could I do? What what are the other options we could use? So then the great wizard says, you should use something like incremental hydration. All right. Cool. I'll try it out. And, it turns out it starts working. You start incremental hydration and hydrating given elements of the city that helps you to fight with the monster. So you start with the soldiers, you start with the castle, you start with some, weapon equipment guys. So someone who can help you mainly. And you see that the certain elements of the city start to be hydrated. They start reacting. But apparently, monster comes back. And when the monster comes back, he turns it back to be dehydrated. How you can relate? Well, the monster refresh the page. He refreshed the city and turns it back into dehydrated city. Everyone still can't move. And he starts to destroy the city. So do you have an idea what could we do? Because incremental hydration was working, but the monster is faster. He comes back. He does lots of damage to the city. Do you have any idea, guys, the ones who are working with hydration and SSR, what could be a solution? Maybe. So the Witcher of optimization decided to call Yennefer, and the Yennefer gave him a good advice around you should use a sign of reasonability. And reasonability helped Witcher of optimization to kill the monster, to kill the lag monster. So in the future, dear Witchers, if you are in front of a decision, which signs should we use? Which signs should we, learn? You can use this cheat sheet. And I hope this gives you at least some sort of an overview. What are the potential tools or Witcher signs you could use in future? Thanks. That would be it. But it's not the end. I also would love to give you a short insight. As Kuba mentioned, we are looking for a very, very curious Witcher who knows some science around design system. We look for a true expert in this field. So if you look for a job or you consider changing, then feel free to reach out to us, scan the code, and apply. And that's also not the end, because I have a Witcher contest for you with some prizes. Are you ready? All right. So I have some prizes over here, a true Witcher prizes that will help you to stay hydrated. I also have some, this is not an advertise. This is some sort of, a very healthy water. We will change it, right? Because we not necessarily, are on Java backend conference. So we will change it to JavaScript, right? So the main winner of the contest, which we will go through in the moment, will also get something to be fully hydrated. All right. So let's have a short contest. And what the contest will be about, let me see if I can quickly move it here into the presentation mode. All right. Will that work? I don't think so. So let me fix it in the other way. First quest, how to display. No, let me do it in this way, much faster way. Okay, I will add it to the presentation and make it a bit bigger. Sorry, guys, for disruption. All right, please scan this QR code to take part in the Witcher contest. And we will start in a moment. Make sure to put your login, the username, at least the one that you know and will remember within 5 minutes, right? So twoja stara and the other ones might not be the good ones until you remember. All right. This is not part of the contest, don't worry. All right, I can see we have quite a lot. Let's wait 20 more seconds. All right, I believe we have majority of you there. Are you ready? Witchers, are you ready? Yes. All right. So can you see the question? The question is, what causing the curse? A rival wizard, too much unused magic, or a girl forgot to pay a faster hosting? All righty, can you see the results as well on the app? Awesome. So yeah, too much unused magic. We had too much of our JavaScript, HTML files, all this funny stuff. Let's move on. So the next question, what happens if full hydration is used recklessly? Everything loads slowly, no difference. The browser catches fire. Okie dokie. What happens? Yes, everything loads slowly. You're totally right here. And what's next then? How does incremental hydration help? Will it speed up interactions, save some magic like CPU power, or breaks the page? And the good news is there were two good answers here. And let's move on to the last question. Are you ready? Let's move on. How do we defeat the lag monster? Just wait longer? Burn the entire city down? Or remember past magic? All right, cool. That means you remembered something from the talk. Wow. That's really nice. That's really nice. All right, that's it. Do you see the results, guys? Awesome. Then I would very much like to invite to the stage David, Natalia, and Anton. Come on, guys. You are either the fastest switchers or the most curious and the strongest ones. All right. Here you go. Here we go. Please stay on the stage. We'll make a picture. Here we go. And yes, please stay hydrated. Can we get the picture? Over there. Thank you. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.
No more contests?
No.
That's sad.
That's it.
Thank you so much for this fantastic time. I'm a big Vici fan. That was one of the reasons I was like, okay, I live in Poland for over 3 years, but one of the reasons to learn Polish is I wanted to read Vici as it was written, as it was intended. Unfortunately, there's a lot of really hard words in this area. So anyway, we have our next lightning talk that will also take just 5 minutes as this one. And I invite Krzysztof. Absolutely. I invite Krzysztof, the mastermind of, is he in the audience? Is he here? Please come on stage. We are waiting just for you. And for the screen to light up. Lovely. Thank you so much. You always look so dashing. Yours 10 minutes. Absolutely. No problem. As I mentioned, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, it doesn't really matter. Time is just a concept.
Yes. Oh, okay, everyone can hear me. Okay, let's put it here.
All right. As usual, we are having
Actually,
computer troubles,
nice.
I think, but
Nice.
it's fine. It's just a little hiccup. It is by design. It is intended. Time is a concept, as I mentioned. Oh, we have a lot. Okay.
Yeah, this is for the notes, so you can proceed.
So you're going to use 2 laptops at the same time while presenting.
Yes.
That is incredible.
We are
I've
at
never
the
seen
computer
anyone
meetup.
do that. That is incredible.
Or rather,
And they send Windows guy to do this.
it's PDF. You should handle
Okay.
everything.
Lovely. Woo! Once again, Shadlan of loss. Thank you. We're ready to begin.
Okay, yes, but it shouldn't be automatically going forward. It should allow me to manually control it. With this, I think.
Try now.
No? Wait, let me turn this off. This one. Okay, this doesn't work, but this does, so it's okay. Yeah? So, hello everyone. My name is Krzysztof Moszyński, and my presentation today will not be on programming, but it will be on a very relevant topic, and I will present it in a way that's approachable for programmers in particular. Topic is how to debug your mind, building practical wisdom. So first, a few words about me. I'm an excellence coach. I help people achieve excellence in many different areas of their lives. I'm also a multi-tool software developer at this wonderful company called Xfunk. So I do various technologies. When I go into a project, I learn all the technologies in this project. I like learning stuff in general. And I'm also the president of the Thriving Individuals Foundation, which is also about self-improvement and growth. So let's analyze the feedback process that we have when we are programming. We have some program failure, like a bug or a test failure. Then the second stage is debugging, finding the causes of the failure. We think this allows us to improve our understanding of the program, which in turn helps us fix the program, and the program doesn't work, doesn't fail in the same way. Perhaps it will fail in a different way. It works better. So now we may ask a question, because this is about wisdom, not programs. What is wisdom? So maybe we can use the same process to develop wisdom. So this is the definition from American Dictionary, which I like. It's basically the ability to make good judgments based on experience. So it's practical. It's experience-based. It can be, of course, other people's experience. It creates some mental models. It creates some common sense that we can use in our lives to analyze reality around us. Because reality is complex, we need to simplify it so we can make decisions. It's unscientific. You don't need to make a scientific paper on it. But it's very practical. It helps us make good choices in our lives. So now, the feedback process for life, for creating wisdom. We experience some failure, some suffering. This is the trigger. Then we reflect on the causes of this suffering. Why did we fail? What happened? This reflection, this moment of reflection, which is very important, allows us to improve our mental models, bringing our understanding of reality closer to the practical reality. This allows us then to fix our patterns of action. So we think better, so we act better, and the result is not repeating the same mistakes over and over. There is less suffering. There are still problems, but these problems are more preferable problems. Like before you had bad problems, now you have better problems. You still need to solve problems. This is life. Let's not forget. So the question is, what mistakes, what obstacles could get in the way of this process? And there are several ones. Maybe you can, okay? No ideas? Okay, let's continue. So the first, of course, the first mistake is where the trigger lies. So the first mistake is avoiding challenges. Avoiding negative feedback in general. If we avoid suffering, if we avoid challenges, the whole process cannot start. We cannot become wise from experiences if you have no experiences. So think about a typical person in a modern society. Many of us are kind of like spoiled children, chasing after comfort and pleasure and avoiding any type of difficulty or suffering. But could this ever lead to wisdom? Could this ever lead to growth? Like I used to be actually addicted to video games, so I used to chase this pleasure, this comfort, and avoid suffering through that. So I understand it well. But lack of challenge makes us brittle. Lack of challenge makes us unprepared to face challenges in the future. And we can avoid suffering for a while, but then we face the suffering that we cannot avoid and it all explodes. So the solution is to unfortunately expose ourselves to hardships, to challenges, to suffering. And we can do this through, for example, learning to appreciate it, learning to source pleasure from it. The example is weightlifting. I do a lot of weightlifting, as you can probably see. And I really love it. I love the feeling itself. Like I've learned to appreciate the feeling of pain and challenge, and this helps me grow. So, however, even if you avoid suffering, you will still have some suffering in your lives. So the next mistake has to do with our reaction to the suffering. When we face with the fact that our model of reality is wrong, that we have failed, we are failing, something is not working, some people become very stubborn. Some people double down on their unrealistic model of reality because they are so attached to this vision that they cannot appreciate reality telling them you're wrong. So this can lead to people repeating the same mistake, hitting the same wall again and again, and suffering in the same way again and again, because they prefer to deny the reality. I used to actually think that caring for your looks is something shallow, something that you shouldn't do. And I used to think that I am better than everyone else because I didn't do this. So I would make myself look very untidy. And when people told me that, hey, you could maybe improve this or that, where maybe something better, I would become even more stubborn and make myself even more stubbornly untidy. But this was not really good. This was just being arrogant. This was just ignoring the reality. So it hurts our pride and ego, but we need to accept the life's lessons. We need to learn to love the truth that the life gives us, even if the truth is painful. So the third mistake is kind of similar to the second one. When we see suffering, we do not reflect on it. Some people are kind of like this beautiful camel. When they face suffering, they will not reflect on why it happened. They just carry the burden. People who are familiar with Nietzsche may recognize this camel. And there is time and place for enduring suffering. However, if we want to achieve wisdom, if we want to become wiser, to have less pain, less unneeded suffering in our lives, then we need to think, reflect. And the fourth mistake is not internalizing the knowledge. For knowledge to become wisdom, it needs to be practical. It needs to be applied in our lives. So this issue, when we are not applying our knowledge, this means that the knowledge is still shallow. It's not practical. And I sometimes catch myself doing this mistake when I speak on self-improvement related topics. I will speak on a topic, and after the talk, I think, well, I'm still not applying this and this and that. I'm talking about this, but I'm not applying it. However, there is a solution to strongly practice the new knowledge until it becomes second nature. Then, once we see that we live the knowledge, then it became wisdom. So, how to move it into practice? I've developed a model that is based on the older self-coaching model. And this is how every pattern of thought and action works. So circumstances, some situation, some trigger, plus our beliefs create certain thoughts in our minds. These cause feelings. These feelings trigger actions, and the actions lead to results. And results shape our destiny. So by analyzing our behaviors through this model, we can analyze, we can understand, and change perhaps how we react. And of course, everything starts from changing our beliefs. This is, by the way, a model that I very often use with my clients. So the circumstances are the same, and the beliefs are the main difference from which everything else stems up, sources. English is difficult. Anyway, that's about it. We change our entire patterns of thinking and action, leading to possibly better results. Yeah. Thank you very much. And let's have some questions.
Thank you so much. It was lovely. It gives a lot of food for thought, so to say. Do we have any questions in the audience? I guess we have time for a question too. Nope. Well, there's that. I mean, you can still find each other in the networking section and continue the discussion if you like. Thank you. All right, and we're right back to our slides. And with that in mind, This is the slide that I got asked to please pay attention to this, and I will insist that each and every one of you would pull up your phone, open up the camera app, scan this QR code, and please give us your valuable feedback on how we can improve, how we can iterate on running these meetups, and how we can make the next one even better. In my head, I'm going to count to, let's say, 5. I saw some people scanning, but I don't. Yeah. I see you. I see everyone who's not scanning. You have, let's say, 5 more seconds to scan the QR code. Good. Do you know that there is a person who learned how to decode simple QR codes with their eyes, just like looking and trying to, yes? Yeah, of course. We have all the time in the world.
You have some patterns which are on every workout. Like here you have the timing lines. Like you see here is like dot, like yellow, black, yellow, black, yellow, black, yellow, black, yellow, black. And here you have same thing. And that means that when you scan the QR code, it's like if it's rotated, the camera and the QR code scanner can rotate it back. Because here never happens. It's only between the main corners places, and also in here this is the smallest one QR code. Okay, here's the small QR code, but when you will have the bigger one, oh, here it is. Yeah, here this line is talking you in what mode is saved this QR code, because you have binary, you have normal text and like a string, or you can have only the number. And also, this one is small, so there is not a lot of things here, but yeah, okay. There is nothing more, I think. Like, if we will have some bigger, so you can create next time and put a lot of text or something blank, then I will can show more here, yeah, but thank you, yeah, but this is very interesting, and if someone is, because like, for example, when you do a smash here and remove some of the bits, it's still able to decode that, because there is ready selling codes that double all information, and thanks to that, it can recreate the information which are saved here based on the, I don't know how it's English, but it's called the replication codes. Yeah, and thanks that you can decode even it's mashed or something like that. Yeah, thank you.
That is so cool. So Piotr just approached me like 5 minutes ago and said, oh, we had one more potential lightning talk, but it got canceled. But now we have another lightning talk. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Lovely. Now we know much more about the QR codes. Yeah. Right. Meetup 124. 124, not 123, but still good. We have some fantastic talks. Again, you can sign up. Is there a QR code for that? Oh yeah, absolutely. So we have some fantastic people and speakers for the second. Oh, sorry. Next slide. Next, WarsawJS. I'm stumbling. Right. And now this is a bigger QR code. Is there something more? Okay. Got it. So unfortunately, it's the same boring QR code, but by scanning it, you can sign up for the next WarsawJS edition with a discount. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure it's pretty good. It's usually pretty good. I'm not sure. Like you looked at it and recognized that it's a different QR. It's the same.
One left and one up. This one will be everywhere. Because this is also knowing which R is left down. Like this. Because thanks to this, it's everywhere.
I see. Okay, we want you on the next WarsawJS. Please submit a lightning talk, at least a lightning talk or a big one. I would love to hear about this because this is truly fascinating. Oh, I just love this kind of events and when stuff like this happen. Right. Now, yeah, this is definitely a different QR code. Exactly, it still has the dot. Right. So this is another opportunity to get. This is something I got when I was like, oh, I always forget to buy the ticket, and I really love this because you can just show up and you're always on the list. Like if you want to support us, you can do this. There is an option for this as well in the long term. Right, and I saw some people scanning. That's good. And is this the last slide? I press right and nothing happens, which means it's time for networking until. So we have to get out of here at 10. So you have, let's say, 50, 45-ish minutes to talk to each other, talk to the speakers, talk to everyone. And I thank you again, everyone, for coming, and give yourself a hand, give yourself a round of applause. Thank you so much.